Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2021 State of Automobility, presented by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. Please welcome the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Detroit Regional Chamber, Sandy Baruah.
Welcome, and thank you for joining the 2021 State of Automobility presented by MICHauto. We know your time is really valuable, and we appreciate your continued trust in the Chamber and MICHauto to make good use of it. As a leader in data and research, not just in our region, but across the state, we are pleased to annually host a State of series, our State of Education report, our State of the Region report, our State of the State with the Governor, and today's event, the MICHauto State of Automobility, where you will once again see the impact of our data and research capabilities. The staff and board leadership of the Chamber could not be more proud of the MICHauto program and the team led by Glenn Stevens. MICHauto has carved out a unique niche in Michigan's automotive space, serving as the first and only automotive mobility industry cluster association in Michigan focused exclusively on promoting the industry within the boundaries of our Great Lakes state. Longtime industry observers know that MICHauto was actually started back in 2007, the brainchild of Tom Manganello and a handful of others. Now, while their idea to create a Michigan-focused automotive industry cluster association was certainly a good one, their timing certainly was not. 2007 and 2008 were not the industry's best years. The Chamber took the program under its wing in 2012 and integrated it into Chamber operations and programming, and invested time, talent, and resources into the program to make it what it is today, and we couldn't be prouder of where MICHauto stands today, serving the industry and the state. Thanks to MICHauto, the Global Center of the Automotive Industry has an association dedicated to their interests in their home state. Thanks to MICHauto, the state of Michigan has increased their focus on our signature industry, treating it as the global strategic asset that it is, as evidenced by the development of the Michigan Mobility Initiative, the Governor's Mobility Roundtable, and Governor Whitmer's new creation, the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. The initial 4 MICHauto investors that met over beer in Tom Manganello's garage is approaching 100 companies and investors today. And as you will see in the upcoming presentation, the strength of MICHauto was on full display during the unique circumstances for all of us in 2020. The work of MICHauto would not be possible without the many sponsors and supporters of this unique program. Specifically, bringing you today's programming, I would like to thank our presenting sponsor, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Office of Future Mobility and Electrification, our supporting sponsors, Comcast Business, Continental Structural Plastics, and Phoenix Contact e-Mobility, and of course our longtime friends at Bank of America, Dykema, Ford Motor Company, Mala, Next to Your Automotive, and of course Warner, Norcross, and Judd for their steadfast support of MICHauto over these many years. While I know you will gain much from today's presentation and conversation, we're also going to put you to work today. Please help us get the word out about MICHauto, as well as the insights you take away from today's discussions with the thought leaders we have on tap. Please fire up your personal or company Twitter or LinkedIn machines to share a thought or a screen grab from today's presentations. So we have a great program for you today. We're going to make a little news with some research data. You will hear great insights from a panel of experts and learn about MICHauto's work with CADIA, focused on increasing the talent diversity of the automotive and mobility industry. I want to thank my friend John McElroy of Autoline for joining us today and lending his talent and perspective to today's programming, along with our other special guests. And of course, most importantly, I want to thank you for sharing your valuable time with MICHauto and the Detroit Regional Chamber. Enjoy today's programming.
The next portion of the program is sponsored by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Office of Future Mobility and Electrification.
Today in this state, what we have going on from an engineering perspective is awesome. If you really look, there's a lot of new players, a lot of excitement about electrification and mobility and autonomy. There's a lot of West Coast players that came in and said, we're going to show you guys how this is done. But they're here because they recognize that the quality of the engineering and the talent that we have in this state for doing the kind of product development and the integration and really ultimately getting the quality that consumers are going to require in order to accept these new technologies. It's right here. It's happening in Michigan.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Executive Director of MICHauto and Vice President of Automotive and Mobility Initiatives for the Detroit Regional Chamber, Glenn Stevens.
Hello, everyone, and welcome this morning. First of all, I want to thank you, Sandy. I want to thank you for being an ally and a leader for the industry at MICHauto and me personally. But since you came to Detroit in 2010, you have been immersed in this industry, and helping take MICHauto under its wing was a great move for all of us. I also want to thank our team, the extended team, our board of directors, but specifically the MICHauto team. Tabitha Mensch, Devin O'Reilly, Catherine Smith, Jason Puskis, Jenny Daney, and also Carolyn Sauer. Thank you. So let's take a step back real quick to 13 months ago. And 13 months ago was the last time we were all physically together as a MICHauto community. That was on February 25th. There were three major themes really that were talked about that day. A lot of great content, but three that stuck out. One was the evolution of the electric vehicles. Darren Palmer, who worked on the Ford Mach-E, he gave us an in-depth download on that project and program. We had a center stage conversation on diversity and inclusion. And then to cap it all, at the end of the day, Governor Whitman established the new Office for Future Mobility and Electrification with 2 executive orders, including the new council. So a big day that day. That brings us to today. And when we look at where we're at today, I just want to give you a really, really specific update on those three things. First of all, as everyone knows, the Mach-E is on the road, gaining market share, lighting up people's eyes, consumers' eyes, and really getting rave reviews. Not surprised to see that Ford has done that, but it really is encouraging. Secondly, the office is in place. Trevor Paul, Catherine Snorrison, Kate Partington, and Charlie, they've all worked hard to put this office in place along with Judd Herzer and others. It's here, they're operating, the council is meeting. But the most important thing is that we've been able to put in place the CEO Coalition for Change. You're going to hear more about that when Lisa and Cheryl and I talk about it a little bit. But it's in play, the CEOs are leading it, and really it's making a difference in the industry already. So when I look at the year past, we're looking at something which was very, very unique. This is a time when the industry stopped completely. It didn't have anything to go by. Next slide, please. It didn't have anything to really go by because this had never happened before. The pandemic hit. The world as we know it came to a stall. Never before, really in the history of the industry, had the production lines come to a grinding halt. Not even in World War II, in the arsenal of democracy. Those days, we pivoted to production of war equipment to battle the Axis powers. Now we were completely at a stop. So what did we do? The first thing we did is we put together what we called a task force. And we picked up the phone, next slide, please. And I said to Carla Balo at CAR and Julie Freeman at OESA and John Walsh at MMA and others, we don't know where this is going, but we need to talk on a regular basis. So since last March, every Monday at 3 o'clock, these groups, different organizations across the state have come together for a 45-minute call. We've also been joined on almost every call by Debbie Dingell, Haley Stevens, and Senator Peter's staff. And we thank them for being so engaged with this industry. And we stepped through the critical issues together of where the industry was, where it is, and where it needs to go. And we're going to continue to meet. We've moved bi-weekly, but we're still meeting. The next thing that I wanted to focus on, next slide, please, is where we're at and what we focused on right off the bat. As many of you know, the industry pivoted to the arsenal of health. I love that Kristen Dichek from CAR coined that, but that was really PPE production and where we were going with regards to ventilators to get the front line protected. One specific thing that we're very proud of and that we found really beneficial was a partnership between the city of Detroit and Honda. We were able to put those parties together because we had observed that this was happening in Japan, and 10 contactless vehicles were put on the road in Detroit to transport patients. But probably the most important thing were the safe playbooks. Companies like Lear, Ford, Magna, Adient, they created these playbooks, but not only did they create them, they shared them. They open sourced them to other parts of the industry, to other industries, and they became a benchmark. We also wanted to make sure that we galvanized the voice for the industry. So we communicated directly by letter, by advocacy, really directly with the governor's administration with regards to safe startup and reopening of the manufacturing floor. And fortunately, and you probably remember this in late fall, our economy was running at a very high clip compared to pre-pandemic numbers because our auto industry was starting to hum again. But having advocacy for the industry is one thing. We needed to help make sure it was safe and people were protected and people were doing the right things. So the Mask Up Michigan campaign, and I remember when Senator McMurrow used that first hashtag, Mask Up Michigan, that was adopted across the industry and across the state, and it's something that the Chamber of MICHauto really helped lead. And thank you to all those people who lended their voice to that. The other campaign that we continue is Work Smart, Play Smart. It's one thing to be smart in the offices and in the manufacturing plants, but you need to go back to your life and your home, and you need to play smart too. So hence the Work Smart, Play Smart. And that was adopted by many companies, including down in Mexico too. From a continuity standpoint, we felt it was important to do these three things. First of all, what were the resources that companies needed? So together with partners like KPMG and others, we put together a research series, and this was resources across the board for companies to navigate the pandemic, what they were going through, where they were going. The second thing was to continuously communicate what is going on. The COVID Town Hall series, our webinar series with CAR, the MPC conversations. This was continuous communication that the drumbeat needed to really inform people, organizations, and companies. And then at the same time, we continued with what we were doing. What was the core? We just had to pivot to the online world. So we did our Lansing Day online. We did our meetups, our mobility meetups with the MEDC in the office. We did our CEO convenings, one of which was with the governor, talking directly to executives. And then we also, thanks to Jenny Daney, we were able to pivot and put our Discover Auto program online. Very fortunate to have the Auto Caucus with us the whole way. This is a bipartisan, bicameral group led by Representative Jim Lilly, Senator Mallory McMurrow, Senator Wayne Schmidt, and Representative Joe Tate. They were with us the whole way, have been with us pre-pandemic, were with us through the pandemic, and now have led us into our policy guidance for the future with our investors. And where that policy agenda is focused, and Jason Puskas leads this, is to drive legislation for very, very specific things. EV infrastructure, distracted driving, R&D tax credits, the talent pipeline, trade issues, and business climate. So we're very, very focused on these things, and we're going to continue to drive this policy agenda in our advocacy space. Talent is also a very, very big focus, has been from day one for MICHauto, and we are really focused on three things. First of all is the branding of the industry. We want this industry to be viewed as inclusive, high-tech, global, and growth, and we're working with our investors, our institutions across the state to put a branding campaign together to do that. This is something we started on pre-pandemic and we're continuing. Secondly, and Doug Ross from the state, the governor's advisor, has been very helpful with this and helping lead this together with the MEDC. We need to focus on our high-tech skill development. This is really important when you look at the technologies that are present in the industry today. And most importantly, to get at that inclusivity is our CEO Coalition for Change work. So these are our three focus areas for talent. Lastly, I want to talk about the report, the news. In 2019, we released an economic contribution study that said, this is what the automotive industry means to Michigan. It was a $225 billion economic contribution to the industry the state from the industry. Our largest sector, this is what it represented. But what we wanted to do now and today is move forward and say, what does the mobility industry look like? And so we put this study together. Next slide, please. And today we're releasing our mobility industry's economic contribution to Michigan report. And let me just give you a couple highlights to the data. This was done in partnership with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and really executed with our partners from public sector consultants. And this is what we found. And this is important, next slide please, when you look at how this industry is today, but where it's going and what the opportunity is. So when you look at the industry, it's a $304 billion economic contribution to our economy today. This is underlaid and underscored by the automotive industry that's included in that, but now adds on transportation of goods and services and products through different transportation systems, from drones to rail. They're all in this number. The second thing I want to underscore is that this represents 23% of Michigan's gross domestic product. The other thing that it does, if you compare it, Germany's industry is 250 as a country as a whole. So you can see how substantial this is. And lastly, 1.1 million jobs directly and indirectly. That is 25% of the private sector workforce in Michigan. The other thing that I would point out is the salaries. The average salary in our industry is $65,000 versus the average of $30,000 across the state in all industries. So this is a summary, a high level. The report is available on our website, and we will be releasing this information today. The media has it. They've been embargoed today, but we wanted to give you the first look at it today. So thank you for your time. I know that was a rapid fire of what we're doing and where we're going. We thank our investors for being there along the way with us and for helping guide us and steer us.